Okay, 6:02, so I'm going to go ahead and get started in our class. Someone might join a little later. If not, it'll be recorded for anybody that needs it. So we did not last week, 2 weeks ago, we did Chapter 8, Prepositions and the verb "me." So we want to do a short review and go over some of the homework, and then we'll do an introduction into Chapter 9, Adjectives. So let me do a screen share here with okay, should be able to see the screen now. And if you remember, the way it's set up is we have declensions, and a declension is nothing more than a pattern in which we're following. In this case, a second declension masculine singular pattern follows a pattern with for the nominative, genitive, dative, and accusative. The sigma ending when we start with you got the root, which would be log, and then the stem, the omicron, so loga or logo, however you want to pronounce that. And at the end of the stem, we add the sigma to give us the nominative singular function. So it means it would be functioning typically or predominantly as a subject, although there are other nominative functions. The omicron stem with the new ending would be the accusative, and the accusative would function as a direct object in our sentence. And if we have the omicron stem with the upsilon ending, that is the genitive function case, and it functions typically as possessive. And so that would be, we typically use a helping word like of, so it would be of word or of the word, or something of that nature. And then the dative has the omicron stem ending as well, but because of there's been contraction, there's some changes, and they call it a blot. Whenever there's some changes, oftentimes vowels will change, they'll lengthen, they'll shorten, or even drop out. And so in this case, there's a change to where the omega, or the omicron, is lengthened to the omega, and the iota, which is associated with the dative, has a subscript, and so we don't pronounce the iota, and so we get lago. And this functions as the indirect object, and we would use helping words like to, with, or I'm going blank now all of a sudden, in, to, with, or in typically. There are others, but those are the general helping words that get you started in your translation. For a second declension neuter singular pattern, we're still dealing, because it's second declension, we're still dealing with the omicron stem ending, and we still have the omicron stem ending but we have the new for the nominative case. So euangeleon, it would be functioning as the nominative. The accusative, also euangeleon, and there are other cues that will tell you if it's functioning as the direct object here or as the nominative. Of course, the dative singular is the same with the omega subscript iota, and the omicron upsilon for the genitive. So yangelu, euangelion. I've been pronouncing that wrong. You on the new N sounding. Euangelion, euangelio, euangelion. And then so this and I do the trees just for visualization. So this would be like a red apple tree. It has one pattern. This would be like a green apple tree. It has a different pattern, but they're both apple trees because they're both in the second declension. They both have the omicron stem ending. But then there is like an orange tree, which would be a different pattern, first declension feminine. And it will have a stem ending either of the alpha or the eta. And so in the nominative case, the word will end in its stem, like agape or basileia. The stem is the ending, so there's nothing added to it in the nominative. So when it functions as a subject or predicate nominative, it will still just have the stem ending. The genitive would be in the alpha sigma or the eta sigma. agapes or basileos. The dative would still be the iota subscript, except instead of under the omega, it's under the eta or the alpha, such as agape or basilea. And in the accusative, it's going to be the new ending added to the stem. The stem is either the eta or the alpha, so agapein or basileon. And so these are the singular second declension masculine and neuter, as well as first declension feminine case or declensions, which are the patterns we would follow. Very much the same for the plural. It's just a different pattern, of which we still have a second declension masculine pattern, but now it's plural. And so the stem is still the omicron, and so we add the iota to it, and we get the lagoi, which makes that a plural words with the S at the end. The accusative, functioning as a direct object, lagus. The stem is the omicron, but there has been some lengthening that occurs, and so we add the upsilon, and the sigma is the ending. Lagois is a dative, functioning as an indirect object, and genitive plural would be lagon. Interesting thing is you see the pattern, omega nu, omega nu, omega nu, omega nu. It's a constant pattern. The dative always has the iota, except here we're not subscripting the ois, ois, ice, ice, and so forth. So, and here's a paradigm. You need to know the paradigm without the stem and with the stem, whatever is more comfortable. But generally speaking, you're better off if you can know it without the stem. The sigma, the upsilon, the omega, with subscript iota, the nu, the iota, the omega nu, the iota sigma, and the upsilon sigma. And so if you learn this pattern, you're in pretty good shape. You need to know it. Adjectives tonight follow the exact same pattern, as does in most cases, the article. And here's the article. This is extremely important to be comfortable and have it memorized. So I learned as ho, hey, has a rough breathing. Ho, hey, ta, tu, taste, tu, to, te, to, ton, tain, ta, hoi, hi, ta, tone, 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 tois, tais, tois, tus, tas, ta. These follow generally the same noun rules that we have already gone through. There's the masculine genitive is the same as the neuter genitive, and same with the dative and the singular, the plural, and in the dative plural. So the masculine and the neuter will have the same. The neuter and the nominative singular will be the same in the accusative singular. The nominative plural and the neuter will be the same as the accusative plural and neuter. That's about all I wanted to go over that. Okay, so last week we did prepositions. The key thing about prepositions is recognizing that the preposition is associated with, or some say governing, the object that it's associated with, or that it's governing. And this circle represents the object. And so if the preposition was ace, the object would be in the accusative. That's what the A here stands for, in the accusative. And it generally means, there's a general meaning of into, and you see it has motion as into. That motion really has a lot to do with the verb associated with it. So there's some things that could change that, but that's for later. And so I gave you a chart similar to this. Some of them do not have motions. Epi plus the genitive means upon, so it's on relative to the object. Some of them have only one associated with one case, such as the accusative here for ace, and in with the dative being in. But some of them have multiple, such as dia plus the genitive means through, but dia plus the accusative means on account of. And so generally speaking, you want to have a handle on this. So without anyone to have questions, I'm not sure what else to add, but we can, I think we went over it last week, so we'll go from there. So the homework, we'll do the homework, and the first one is hemera. And let me see, I'm going to change, see if it'll let me change here. to a pen. I don't know how well this will work. Okay. Hemera, and so the case, we have the subscript iota right there. And so the case would be a dative case. The number, and this is the singular. So a singular. And you see the alpha with the subscript iota, that's the dative singular. The gender, because the alpha stem ending is feminine, so that's a first declension feminine singular noun. Its lexical form, I'm not going to spell out for because it's too difficult. It would be a, my rough breathing there, a med, I guess I am going to spell it out, a mera, and my accent mark. So its lexical form, that is the form that you would find it in the lexicon. It is generally in there as the nominative case. The inflected meaning, meaning the meaning that is in our text, would be in the dative, so it would be to, in, or with day, or to or with a day or the day. Thassalon, and we see the accusative new ending here. That's going to automatically tell me I'm dealing, the alpha new ending tells me I'm dealing with the accusative. The accusative new ending is in the singular. There's my feminine, because there's my stem ending with the accusative right there. And so that the lexical form would be thalassa, without the new, and inflected meaning with the new, because it's the direct object, would just be its definition, which is sea, or sometimes lake, I think. Parabalais, well, the ice is a real key right here. So that's a dative, and it's the plural. And the alpha iota is going to tell me that it's feminine. And its lexical form is parabale, without the, would just be the eta, would just be the eta ending. And so its meaning would be, because it's a plural, we want to remember that our answer needs to end in a plural, so it's going to end with an S. In this case, it'd be parables, but not just parables, because it's dative, we want to put a helping word, so it'd be to parables, or with parables, or in parables, or something of that nature. Here we get the rough breathing here. Don't forget the rough breathing for here. Ha, ma, ma, tion. Well, the omega nu is going to tell me that as well. I don't know for sure. What I do know that this is plural, and I do know that this is genitive. And what gender it is hard to tell without knowing its lexical form. And its lexical form is harmatia, because the reason is because omega nu is the same whether you're dealing with first declension masculine, neuter, or excuse me, first declension feminine, or second declension masculine or neuter. It's still the omega nu ending for the genitive plural. So the gender is, I won't know, I can only know if I know the lexical form. Well, the lexical form is harmatias, which ends in alpha. And what do we say? That stem ending with an alpha is a feminine. So that's a first declension word, but it's a feminine. And so it is a genitive, so it will generally be of sins. And let's don't forget that it's a plural, so let's don't forget to say sins. S-I-N. And it's supposed to be an S, but it looks like a 5. Okay. Thanato, well, we have the iota subscript with the omega. And the case is definitely going to be dative, because we have our subscript iota, and it's singular because it's a subscript. And whether it's not feminine, and the reason I know it's not feminine is because in the feminine, it would be an eta or an alpha iota subscript. but it's an omega, so that's either going to be the the masculine or neuter. And the only way I know, again, is if I know its stem ending or its lexical form. Well, that's why you're doing the lexical form. The lexical form is thanatos, omega sigma. Well, that omega sigma tells me it's a masculine word. So that is the thanato in the dative, singular masculine. Its lexical form is thanatos, and because it's dative, it's going to be to death. Is the meaning of the word is death. To death, with death, or in death. Here's my rough breathing again. So this is weus, and this omicron upsilon sigma tells me it's the accusative, plural, and the only place where that accusative ending, case ending, is used is with the masculine first declension masculine plural ending, and so it is and if you know the lexical form, the word is of course weos with an omicron sigma ending, just like here, just like the other ones, my ditto sign. And so let's not forget when you translate that what happens a lot is the answer is not son, but sons plural. And so it is functioning in the accusative, so there's no helping word, so it's just sons. Excusion, well, there's my omicron nu, and alpha nu. Alpha nu is going to tell me that it is a feminine word. There's my feminine alpha ending, stem ending. The nu is my accusative, singular, and this is all you do. So you keep breaking it down like this, and you sort of identify how the word is, what case ending it is, and what masculine, singular, masculine, feminine, or neuter, whether it's first, second, or third declension, or whether it's singular or plural. And so excusia is the ending, the lexical form ending, which is an alpha. Well, an alpha stem ending tells me it's feminine. Excusia, and the word is authority. It's being used as the accusative, so there's nothing I add to it. It's singular, so it's just a word authority. Uranon, there's my omega nu ending, and so I know it's plural automatically. I know it's genitive automatically. There's nothing else. Now, which of gender is, I don't know unless I know the lexical form of Orion. Well, the lexical form ends in an omicron sigma, and that would be Uranos. Well, there's my sigma ending for the masculine with the omicron stem ending. So this is going to be a masculine word from Uranos, and it means of heaven, because it's genitive, and it's of heavens plural. Just don't forget of heavens plural. Next word is oiku. Well, omicron upsilon ending is going to be the genitive, singular, and it can either be masculine or neuter. And the only way I know what it's going to be, it's not can either be, it is either masculine or neuter. The only way I know is if I know the lexical form. Well, the lexical form is oikos, again with the omicron sigma ending. Well, that tells me it's a masculine. So it is a second declension, masculine singular word being used in the genitive, and it means oikos or oiku is house. Because it's in the genitive, it's going to be of a house or with or in a house. Any of those helping words would work. Akloi, well, this omicron iota ending is plural nominative, the plural nominative, and it's masculine because that's what it is. And so its lexical form is aklos. Again, we have the omicron sigma for its singular lexical form, nominative singular lexical form. And the word aklos means crowd, but because it's in the plural, it's crowds with our sigma ending. So hopefully this is beginning to make sense. And if beginning to feel a little comfortable with it. But that's really all you do, is you break it down in that manner. So hopefully that will work. Let me erase all this, and we'll move to the next slide, I hope. Okay, so the first was the warm-up, and these are dealing with prepositions, and there's our preposition in. And we have a dative to. This is the article to. And euangelio. And so the dative, the article is aligned with its agreement with the noun it's associated with. So to euangelio, euangelio, excuse me, euangelio. I always say that one wrong. So in means in, and the euangelio, gospel. So in, well, I'm not going to write all this out. I guess I am. Maybe I'll get better at it one day. In the gospel. It's not a complete sentence, a prepositional phrase, and that's really all that is. So we'll erase that, I hope, and go to the next one. Ace, tain, oikion. A couple of things to notice. There's our preposition. The object of the preposition is the oikion, and oikion has the omicron new ending. That's a feminine word. Oikos can be masculine or feminine. You have oikos and oike, with the omicron sigma, or you can have the omicron or the alpha stem ending. In other words, there's a feminine house and there's also a masculine house. They're two different words. Here we see the feminine in the accusative, and I know it's the accusative. It makes it really easy if I know my articles, because there's tain, the feminine, or with the eta, and the news for the accusative. And so ace, meaning into the house. And that's all you do. Preposition meta, to ioannou. Well, meta can be meaning with in the accusative, or excuse me, with in the genitive. When it's with the genitive, or when it's governing accusative, it means after. So depending upon what the object of the preposition determines the meaning of the preposition. In this case, we have a genitive singular article that is associated with the genitive singular noun, name, John, ioannou. So this would be with, that's a dumb W, isn't it? With John. Now notice that we don't, with names in English, we don't include the article, although it is oftentimes, not, I wouldn't say every time, but oftentimes associated with the name. But we don't translate it, generally speaking, with the name. So. All right, and here we have Kai, Hain, Kurios, Meta, Yosef. So Kai is the word for and, Hain is the word we learned last week. Well, maybe a week, or not last week, we learned earlier. I don't know if it was the last time we met or prior. I think it was prior. One of the words in our vocabulary words. We learned more about it last week when we looked at ami. This is the past tense of ami. It's a verb. We will get to verbs later, but because it's past tense, it doesn't mean is, but it means was. And so we have the word and, was. Kurios is one of our vocabulary words. It means Lord. And then we have the preposition meta, and then the name Joseph. So okay, so and we have and the Lord. So we and the Lord, we add the was with Joseph. would be how you'd translate that. Anyway, so and the Lord was with Joseph. I might try this differently, I think. Change my pointer, see if this will work. Okay, so here we have hutas Eston hawias tu the'u. Well, the hutas means this, or actually it's functioning as a nominative. Actually, we'll look at this tonight, a little bit of predicate nominative. This is the son. There's my nominative article, nominative singular article, and the son, and of course, of God. There's no preposition here, so I don't know why they included this one, but it should be one that we can do. So this is the Son of God. Here's another one. There's no preposition, but what we have is the theoi. Well, the Omicron iota is the plural nominative case. And este, we learned a me in our last meeting, and it's paradigm. Well, this would be the second person plural. So this refers to the plural you are, because it's plural, so it's are, it's not is. It's from a me. And so este is you are God's, or God's you are. I think it's you are God's. Probably not a capital G, but that's fine. And next slide. Okay, now we had done verbs. This one was given to us, erkatai. Erkatai is meaning comes. It's either he, she, or it comes, and built into the verb is the subject. And this is a third person singular. So he, she, or it comes. And here's our preposition, ace, oikon. Well, ace is works with the governs the accusative, and so here we have okon, and there's our accusative ending right there. The Omicron nu, which is going to tell me that it's the accusative singular masculine ending. So into the house would be all that would be. We insert the to make it a smooth English translation. Okay, doxan para anthropon u labano, and here's the verb given to us. I receive. I is built into this, so this is a first person singular. I received. U means not, so I did not receive. Now let's find the subject, and doxan is in the accusative. Para is our para anthropon is our preposition, prepositional phrase, with para being the preposition, anthropon being the object it's governing, and that's our prepositional phrase, anthropon. So there's no stated subject, so the I that's embedded in the verb is what we'll use. So I receive, or I did not receive. Doxan is in the accusative, so I did not receive what? I did not receive glory. Para with the genitive, because we have here the genitive case, and para with the genitive is from. I did not receive glory from man. So that's pretty straightforward, I think. Or men, excuse me, that's plural. Let's make sure I do that right. And here's our verb given to us. Elaleisen, he, she, or it spoke. Lale means to speak. And there's our third person singular, the epsilon nu ending there, this aorist. So he spoke. Well, who spoke? Well, here we have our nominative, ha Jesus, Jesus, and there's our prepositional phrase, in parabalais, and there's our dative, well, it's all in the dative, in parables, parabalais, there's our dative plural, so it's parables plural, and then this, so there's the whole prepositional phrase is right here in parables. I'm going to switch back to the pen. Here's our prepositional phrase. It's all in the dative. So in, its object is in the dative, and it means in, generally. So in parables, and we have two, there's our dative, the crowd, plural. So we're dealing with dative plural, dative plural, dative plural. So Jesus spoke in parables to the crowds. Kai epaptizanta. This is a passive verb. Let me get into it now. But they were being baptized, and they were being baptized. And here's our preposition, hupa. And one of the things we see is an elision. Elision is when the preposition in this case actually ends in the omicron. And because the next word that it comes up against is in a vowel, here's an alpha. It doesn't look like one, but and what happens is that the Greeks don't like to pronounce two words, the one that ends in a vowel, another one begins in a vowel, and so this vowel drops, and you get the little comma-looking thing at the top, or the it's called an elision. So hupata, and would be the preposition hupa out to hupatu, excuse me. And then here's another preposition. So what I like to do generally is every time I see a preposition, I go and actually mark out the prepositional phrase. That makes it a little easier for me to begin, especially the more we do translations later. I want to identify the main verb. Well, I know the main verb is not going to be in the prepositional phrase. And I want to identify the main subject and these kind of things. So if I can eliminate everything else, I get down to the core sentence. So hupa'atu would be by him or from him. I think it's going to be by him. By him. And then into your Danai would be in the Jordan. So, and they were being baptized by him in the Jordan. Hopefully that kind of falls. Hard to tell without feedback if I'm answering any question, the need. So, but obviously you can send me a text, email, and we'll try to answer anything that comes up. Kurias Eston ha wias tu anthropu sabatu. Well, we have our, this is actually, which we'll touch on tonight, I think, a predicate nominative, where we have here, there is a nominative singular governed by an ame verb or associated with an ame verb. And so basically there's some rules associated with this. And this is not going to be the Lord is the Son of God, but it's going to be the Son of God is the Lord. And actually we would take this whole phrase here, the Son of God, the Son of, shouldn't say God, where did I get that? The Son of Man is Lord of the Sabbath. And I know it's of the Sabbath because I'm in the genitive singular. And so because it's genitive, I would use my helping word of Sabbath. And so the Son is my subject, the Son of Man. This is a in description, describing the Son or giving his definition. The Son of Man is Lord, also in the nominative, of the Sabbath. So hopefully that helps. Here's a long one. And this where it's really helpful to mark things off. First thing I'm going to do is I go mark off my verb. And then any phrases I can mark off. There's one in kai nice, tais, hemerais. That's all in the dative. Because N is in the dative, the words that it's covering will be in kais, tais, hemeas. Here's another verb. Elthen, he, she, or it went. And then I have Jesus, and another preposition here. Apa Nazareth, that would be from Nazareth. And this is probably part of that prepositional phrase. It's in the genitive as well. And so this would be Tais and Galileas, which would be a genitive feminine singular. And so this is going to be Jesus from Nazareth of Galilee. And there's another verb. He was baptizing, and here I have another prepositional phrase right here, and then another one right here, and another one right here. And so I just begin to break it down. So we start with and, again a ta. Well, this is a neuter ta, and neuter ending, so it would be it came to pass that, and then we have in a kainais tais hemaras, and it came to pass in those days, plural, and is the preposition, and that will mean it has to have also means in those days that he went. Well, who's he? Jesus. That Jesus went. Well, Jesus who? Jesus from Nazareth of Galilee. So it would be, and it came to pass that in those days Jesus from Nazareth of Galilee went and baptiste, and so was baptized. Well, who was baptized? Well, referring back to the one that went to Jesus, and he was baptized where? Into, this is ace is into tan Iordanen, there's my accusative ending, into the Jordan, and then we have hupa huanu. Well, hupa is governing the genitives, and this is going to be by John. If I were to write the whole thing out, and it came to pass in those days, Jesus from Nazareth of Galilee went and was baptized in the Jordan by John. Should be, hopefully you get that. Another long one. So I like to identify the verb, and normally that's not the verb, so let me change that. Underlined the wrong one. Here's my verb, Eston. And so Eston, and they didn't give us the definition because you should know it. It's part of the me verbs. So Eston is, and menon, actually it's a participle, ha menon, goes together, which we haven't had yet. Here's my prepositional phrase, en tain agape. Here's another prepositional phrase, en to theo. There's another verb, mene, he, she remains, and God, this is in the nominative. Here's another prepositional phrase, en auto mene. Well, mene, we're told up here already what it means, it remains. So, in to. So we have our subject, God is, well, love. And this is a predicate nominative. The key to understanding the predicate nominative is look for the article. Generally speaking, the nominative, see, they're both nominatives, right? Hata, os, and agape are both nominatives. This happens to be feminine, this happens to be masculine. And so to know which one comes first, it's not love is God, it's God is love. And I know that because the one with the article is going to be the one first. It's the subject. The predicate nominative, that's just what this is called, a predicate nominative. Everything associated with the verb and after it is part of the predicate. So this is the nominative case, so it's the predicate nominative. Hata, os, God is love. And the one remaining, they told us what this means. This is the one remaining right here. The one remaining, and now we got to translate. One remaining in love. So this is my preposition in. In is governing the dative. So in love, in God, dative, remains. So the one remaining in love in God remains, and then we have our God remains and God in him remains. So rough translation would be God is love, and the one remaining in love in God remains, and God in him remains. To smooth that out, it would simply be God is love, and the one remaining in love remains in God, and God remains in him. So hopefully that makes sense to you guys. Okay, I think that's going to move us through all the homework. Yeah, so now we'll pick up. We'll finish early because I got no feedback, and so we're going to pick up and start into Chapter 9. We'll talk about adjectives. Adjectives in English describes and qualifies or limits a substantive. A substantive, remember, is a noun, a pronoun. Like we have a noun functions as a subject or as a direct object or as a dative indirect object or as a genitive. But an adjective is added to that to describe it or to qualify it or to limit it. It can function as a noun, such as the red car. This is now giving description or qualifying or limiting the car, right? It's red. It's not the blue one. It's not any car. It's the red car. Or the good book, or a close call. Those are adjectives that are giving descriptive or qualifying or limits to the noun that it is attributing to. Or you can have where the adjective can function as a substantive or as a noun itself, such as the good, the bad, and the ugly, or without the bad and in with the good. Well, good, bad, and ugly, those are adjectives, but the adjective here in each case is functioning as a noun, as a substantive. Like English, Greek adjective describes or qualifies and limits the noun that it's agreement with. Like English, Greek adjectives can stand in place of a noun, can function as a noun. Unlike English, though, Greek adjectives are very highly inflective. In English, the boy caught the dog while he was howling. Well, the question is who was howling? Generally speaking, in English, the howling would be associated to the closest pronoun or noun that's closest to it. So it would be he is howling. The boy would be. The boy caught the dog while who's the he? Is it the dog or is it the boy? And those are difficult. Generally speaking, we'd probably say it's the dog because it's closest to the howling. It's closest to he. And that would be our expected answer. In Greek, though, it's much easier. You don't have to figure that out. The adjective will agree with the noun it modifies. It's going to agree in its case. That is, it's either going to be nominative, genitive, dative, or accusative. It's going to agree in its number. It's going to be singular or plural. And it's going to agree with its gender. It's masculine, feminine, neuter. So if the noun is nominative, the adjective that's modifying it will be nominative. If the noun is genitive, the adjective modifying will be genitive. If the noun it's modifying is singular, then the adjective will be singular. If the noun it's modifying is a masculine, then the adjective will be masculine. And so that will how you can tell. And generally speaking, they're next to each other, but not always. They can be separated. So that's how you can tell which word it's modifying. And so we'll see that as we move forward. In English, so we just said an adjective, we already said this modifies a noun or pronoun, or another adjective. It can modify another adjective. It has three different functions, though. What we typically see it functioning is called attributive. It gives a quality or attributes something to the noun. Normally, like he studied ancient Hebrew. Well, I could just say he studied Hebrew, but ancient is our adjective that's giving us information about Hebrew. And so it's limiting Hebrew. It's not modern Hebrew. It's ancient Hebrew. So it's giving us a quality, or it's limiting. It's giving us an attribute about the noun it's modifying. The head noun is called. Or it can function as a substantive. Well, what that means, it's basically going to function as a noun. Out with the old. Well, old is an adjective, but here it's functioning as part of the prepositional phrase with the old. And the old is the substantive. Or it can function as a predicate. Remember we said the predicate is wherever you have the verb is, anything after the verb is, or with the verb is, and after it is the predicate. And so to be is, whether it's stated or implied, she is young. Well, young is an adjective, but it's functioning as a predicate adjective. In other words, she is, and it's giving us a what's the word? An actor, not an attribute, a description. Well, what's the word I'm looking for? Hold on a minute. Asserting something about the noun, the nominative. So she is what? She is young. So it's called a predicate position. She is, this is the predicate, and it's in the predicate position. This is a predicate nominative. She is young. Let me clear this up. Okay, so here's the adjectives when they're declensions with their endings, both the stem and the case ending. I went ahead and included the third declension. We're going to be doing third declensions in about 2 more weeks. Right now, the only thing we've done so far is the second masculine, the first feminine, and the second neuter. And that's all we've done thus far. In about 2 more weeks, because next week we'll do a review on chapters 6 through 9, just so we can, give us time to absorb it and answer any questions that there might be. But as we get past that, we'll begin to looking at the third declension. The difference is, as we said before, where's my little arrow here? I'm trying to find my, there we go, okay. In the second declension, we have these omicron stem endings, okay? In the first declension, we have an eta or an alpha stem ending. But in the third declension, the stem ending is going to be consonant. And there's we'll get to that later. But it functions very much the same way, but it's stem ending. And we know third declension words have a stem ending with a consonant. And they will act a little differently, but they still function the same way, either nominative, genitive, dative, accusative, or vocative, which we have not touched in a singular or plural. So here is this should be very familiar. This is nothing different, nothing new, other than I've added the vocative in the third declension. All of this is the same thing that we've already done with nouns. It's just now the adjective it's associated with the adjective. The adjective has greater flexibility. It can be the word adjective, the word as an adjective, can be masculine, feminine, or neuter. And the reason is because it has to be able to modify or to agree with a masculine word, a feminine word, and a neuter word. So, and it also has to be able to singular or plural, just like any noun does. I've also given you the vocative singular endings here, which we're not going to really go into. There's some that, but anyway, the one thing I wanted to point out is in the feminine. This is something that I don't think we've touched on. In the feminine singular, this is the singular. If the letter prior to the stem is a row or a vowel, the stem ending is an alpha, such as in nekra. Well, here's the stem, the alpha, and here's the letter prior to it, is the row. Well, if it's a row or a vowel, any vowel, then the stem ending is going to be in the singular an alpha. If it's not a row or a vowel, if it's something else, a consonant or anything else, well, that's about all there is, then the stem ending is going to be an eta. That's why we have this up here. Where's my, trying to find my arrow, hold on a minute. Okay, there it is. Okay, that's why we have this up here. We have either the eta or the alpha. The difference is that if it's the stem ending or the letter prior to it is a row or a vowel, it will have an alpha in the singular, and if it's not, it'll have an eta in the singular. That's just its characteristic of the feminine nouns. In the plural, they all are with the eta. Not all, but generally speaking, you see it's the eta that's being used. Or not eta, alpha, excuse me. The alpha. So that doesn't affect us at all. This can make it somewhat difficult. For example, if the word like nekra was in the genitive singular, it would be nekros. If it was in the accusative plural, it would be nekros. Well, they both sound and read the same way, but yet they're going to function different. Accusative plural versus genitive plural. And the only way we're going to know the difference is the context. However, if the word does not have the word prior to the stem ending does not have a row or a vowel, then it would be with an eta sigma, and this will still be an alpha sigma. That won't change. So we can differentiate the two. So hopefully that makes sense to you. So I just wanted to point that out, maybe to give you a little bit of an understanding of why that occurs and why we have two different ways. Here's what we were talking about earlier. So the adjective is agathos. That's how we'll see it in the lexicon as agathos. That's its nominative singular form, but it will function in the feminine as well as a neuter, and the plural, and of course in the singular. And so agathos, if it's modifying the word man, well, actually I got a few slides on this. So modifying the word man in the masculine, and it's going to function in the nominative case, which I'll show you how in a minute. Then I'm going to see agathos. If it is talking about a woman, then we'll use agathe. If it's something neuter, like a good table or a good book, it'd be agathon. And if it's plural, agathoi versus agathai versus agatha. And so we haven't changed our endings. We know all these endings already. All we've done is taken the adjective and give it where a noun is always going to be masculine, second declension, either singular or plural. A given noun will not also be feminine or neuter, but an adjective can. It has greater flexibility because it has to be able to modify to agree with any noun. A good book in the neuter, good books in neuter plural, good man in the masculine singular, good men in the masculine plural, good woman in the masculine feminine singular, and good women in the feminine plural. So there's greater flexibility in the adjective, and that's why you'll see that occurring. And so, as we mentioned, there are three functions with the adjective. The first one that's most common is called the attributive function. The adjective will agree with the noun it's modifying with case, number, and gender. So if the noun is in the nominative case, masculine, and singular, then the article, or excuse me, the adjective is going to be in the nominative singular masculine. Just like the article does the same thing, the article agrees with the noun it's modifying. If it's a accusative noun in the singular masculine, then the article is going to be accusative singular masculine. Well, the Attributive or adjective is going to be the same. It will agree case, number, and gender with the noun it's modifying. When it's functioning substantively, like it's either functioning as the nominative case, or as a subject, or is functioning in the direct object or an indirect or whatever, then it will agree in case, number, and gender. Not agree, it will have the case, number, and gender in which it functions. So in other words, the adjective agathos, if there was nothing for it to modify, then that would be a good man, because it's in the masculine, agathos. You'll see that in a moment. So its case would be nominative, its number is singular, its gender is masculine. Basically, oftentimes you'd have to, in common sense, you'd have to add a word like the good, or the good what? Well, it's a subject. Well, because it's masculine, it's singular, it'd be good man. If it was masculine, feminine, it would be good men. If it was feminine, it might be the good woman, or whatever the context will determine. There's also a predicate adjective, and the predicate adjective associated with, just like we saw predicate nominative, associated with a me, to be or is whether it's expressed or implied. And we're going to go through some examples here next. So let me clear this and point out a couple examples. The key that I want you to recognize is that really the adjective is very flexible in its case endings, so that it can agree with the noun it's modifying, or can function as the substantively in the as the noun that it's intended to be. In other words, it's intended to be the subject, nominative, or direct object, accusative, whatever the case may be. And so as we go through the next slide, we'll begin to see some of that. Here's the adjective functioning in the attributive position. Now, Hebrews 13. Now, the God of peace, the one who was raised up from the dead, ton poimena ton prabaton ton megon. Well, here's the adjective, megon. And notice that there's our ending on, and it's associated with the ton megon, so it has an article with it. And it's associated with ton poimena. You might look at this and says, well, that's not the same ending. Well, it is. This is in the accusative singular ending. This also is the accusative singular ending. It just happens to be a third declension word that you haven't done yet. But it's accusative. It doesn't matter. It's third declension. It makes no difference. It's in the accusative singular. And this is the accusative singular and the accusative singular. Megon, or from its lexical form, megos, meaning great. And so we have here the shepherd, and this is the genitive, and notice the article is in agreement with the noun that's modifying. Prabaton, well, this is sheep, and it's a genitive plural, and so we have the sheep being plural. So this would be, because even though it's separated, ton megon is modifying here ton poimena. So now the God of peace, the one who was raised up from the dead, the shepherd, poimena, of the great shepherd, excuse me, I have to put my article or my adjective with it, the great shepherd of sheep by the blood of the eternal covenant, our Lord Jesus. And so that's how you would see the agreement and be able to know how it's modifying it. I probably need to walk through that a little slower, I think. I think the key that you need to recognize is that this ton megon, great, is in agreement with this ton poimena. Now, I realize that you may not recognize this right off as a accusative singular masculine, or I think it's neuter. I can't remember now. Whether it be masculine or neuter, it's in agreement with it. I know that really easy because of the article here. So it's the great shepherd, and this is describing the shepherd, the great shepherd of the sheep by the blood of the eternal covenant of our Lord Jesus. So I think, yeah, there are some other things I was going to bring up, is that English oftentimes overuses the word great. You know, we'll have a great meal, a great TV show, a great car, the greatest show on earth. And so we overuse the word great. But that's not so in the biblical scriptures. It's hard for us to grasp what it means specifically in English because we indulge and overuse the word great. But the New Testament is far more constrained when it uses great. And so the author uses the adjective great, megos, here in the accusative form, ton megon. And it is usually something extraordinary. So we have the great shepherd of sheep. And it's used to qualify the shepherd. You know, during the time of David, shepherd was a wonderful vocation. Not so much during the time of our Lord. That vocation, that work, was looked down upon. And so by putting the great here, he's bringing it back to when it was referred to or known as a great. The Megon exemplifies the shepherd who laid down his life for the sheep by the blood of the eternal covenant, our Lord Jesus. So hopefully that gives you a little better feeling of what that is all about. So substantively, an adjective can function as a subject or as a substantival, as a noun. It can stand in place of the noun. And so when Jesus is teaching the disciples to pray, as they had requested, like John's disciples, I don't refer to this as the Lord's Prayer. The Lord's Prayer is in John 17. Here he's teaching them how to pray. And he says, and do not lead us into temptation, but, here's our rough breathing, hrusai hemas, with the rough breathing, hrusai hemas, apotu paneru. There's our prepositional phrase. And so we say, do not lead us into temptation, but deliver us, hupa, from, because functioning in the genitive, from what? From evil. Well, here's the problem. King James translates from evil. And the idea there is that it's from evil in general. But it's functioning as the object of the preposition. Sorry, I can't talk right now. It's functioning as the object of the preposition. And so when oftentimes we have to, in English, clarify what evil is talking. So let me see. Where's my pen? Oh, come on, pen, come back. There we go. Right here. And so it's not, the best translation is not delivered us from evil, but delivered us from the evil one. That gives you the noun or substantive feel to that. Everybody's trying to get hold of me tonight. Matthew 13:17 says, for truly I say to you, paloi prophetai kai dikaioi. And for truly I say to you that many, there's my nominative plural, many prophets and righteous desire to see what you see and did not see it. Well, the righteous is functioning as an adjective, and it's telling us that there's no article with it here in this case, but it's taking it substantively. For I truly say to you that many prophets and righteous ones desire to see what you see and did not see it. So here we see the adjective functioning in a nominative plural, righteous ones, agreeing with an adjective that's modifying the prophets and the righteous one. I'm going to hold on a minute. Let me see something. I'm going to pause. Pause the recording. I need to see what they want because it's sounding like they're saying it's urgent. Okay, just send them notes. I'm going to call them about 30 minutes or so. So an adjective can function substantively. Where do we got? Okay, as in to poneru, which is talking about not just evil in general, but the evil one. There's a big difference. Deliver us from the evil one versus evil in general. It's not referring to evil in general because it's substantival. It's from the evil one. For truly I say to you that many prophets and righteous. Well, it's not just righteous, but it's righteous ones desire to see what you see and did not see it. And so righteous is functioning as a substantival. So go next slide. And it can function in the predicate position. Predicate position here can be the a me or the is, can be implied as it is the first one in Matthew 5:9. Matthew 5:9 is makarioi. Where's my highlighter? Come on back. Hold on a sec, gotta find my highlighter. Okay. Okay. There we go. Makarioi, nominative plural, ere napoi oi. Ere napoi oi. Nominative plural. So I have all these nominative plurals here. Well, this one has the article hoi ere napoi oi, and makroi is the blessed, is what it means, and it's functioning as a noun, blessed. And we're not giving the verb. The verb's not given to us. It's implied. Blessed are, well, it's are because everything's plural, so it wouldn't be is. Blessed are the peacemakers, ere napoioi, peacemaker. In John 33, here we are given the verb. Come on back. It's hard for me to see when I use the highlighter where my pen is. There we go. There's our verb, Eston, is. And so we have God and love. Both of these are in the nominative singular form. This one happens to be masculine. This one happens to be feminine. However, they're both nominative singular. Yeah, so God, and this has the article. So God is, there's is love. Oh, aletheis, no, this is truth. Excuse me, not love. Aletheis, God is truth. And so, yeah, oh, I forgot to record. Let me get my record going. Oh, okay. So none of which I did. I think it was recording, but none of it was being visible. Let me look something up real quick here. I meant to verify something. Where's my mouse again? I start over because I wasn't sharing when I was talking. I don't know what got recorded or didn't get recorded. Mouse, come back. There we go. Okay, so let me clear all this. And start over. Makrioi, there's the oi is a nominative plural. There's the article, nominative plural, hoi. Makrioi, hoi. Ere napoioi. Well, there's a nominative plural. So everything's nominative plural here. Makrioi in the nominative plural, referring to blessed. The verb is not given to us. It's implied. It would be are, because it's plural. You wouldn't say is. Blessed are what? Well, the blessed are the peacemakers. That's the peacemakers. John 3:33, we have the verb given to us, and it is. Eston. God, there's my nominative, singular. God is true. And that's basically a predicate adjective position. So the adjective is functioning in the predicate position it's associated. It's giving. It's predicating something about God. The peacemakers are being predicated about the blessed ones. I don't know if I said that right or not. I'll watch this someday and feel like, oh, I should have said that. Should have said that instead. So next slide. I gave you this chart because I want you to sort of see a summary of how this works. How do you know when an adjective is functioning in the attributive position or the predicate position, or whether it's substantival? Well, one of the major keys is the article. If there is an article with it, it's going to function of one of two ways. If the article is with the adjective, article, adjective, article, adjective, article, adjective, and it will function either in the attributive position or the substantival position. Let me say this again. If there is an article with the adjective, it will be either in the attributive position or substantival. How do you know if it's substantival? Well, context will tell you, because the answer is there won't be another noun to modify. That adjective will be there without something to modify. So it would be standing in as the noun. And then you would know which noun it's standing in based on the case, number, and gender of that adjective. If it's a nominative, well, it's functioning as the subject. If it's an accusative, it's functioning as the direct object, and so forth. Singular and plural, etc., etc. If it has the article and it's not, and there's a noun for it to modify, then it cannot be substantival. If there's a noun for it to modify and the adjective has the article, notice article, adjective, article, adjective, article, adjective. If that article has an adjective, ha agathos, ha agathos, ha agathos, well, and in this case, there's something for the adjective to modify. What's it modifying? Anthropos. Ha anthropos. Anthropos. So there's something for it to modify, so it cannot be substantival. It has to be attributive. And so here we have the good man. The good man. The good man. Notice what's happened. Ha agathos, article, adjective, modifying the noun without an adjective. This is called the first attributive position. It's first attributive position because ha agathos comes before the noun. It's first. Ha agathos, anthropos is the exact same thing as ha anthropos, ha agathos. This is called the second attributive position. Why is it second? Because it comes after. It's second after the noun it's modifying. And so you have an article with the noun, and then you have the article with the adjective, and the only thing that matters is that this adjective, because it has an article, it's still modifying in the attributive position the noun anthropos, whether it has the article or not. Here, in this case, it does, and it's called a second attributive position because it has article, noun first, and then article, adjective second. So it's a second attributive position, and it still translates the good man. That hasn't changed. Now, there is a third attributive position. There's not many of them. And again, I still have an article with the adjective. But the noun comes before the article with the adjective, except there is no adjective associated with, or article associated with the noun. So here we have ha anthropos. being modified by ha agathos. And here we have the noun first without the article and ha agathos. And this is called a third attributive position. And it means the exact same thing, the good man. It's just in a different position. How do I know that it's an attributive position? Because number one, there's a noun to modify it. Number two, there's an article associated with the article associated with the adjective. When there's an article present, it's called articular. It's articular. It has an article with it. So attributive positions, first, second, and third, the meanings are the same. The difference is the position of the adjective with the article. Here it's in the first position. Here it's in the second position. Here it's called the third because the noun it's modifying is before it, but there is no article associated with that noun. So that's the attributive position. Substantival, we already touched on. It's going to function as the noun, and there's typically no noun for it to modify, and that's how you know. Predicate positions. Okay, predicate position is going to be, instead, notice there's no article with the adjective. Agathos, ha, anthropos. Instead, the article is generally with the noun. And so you have first position. Why is it first? Well, because the adjective comes before the noun it's modifying. It's first. How do I know it's predicate? I know it's predicate because the article is not with the adjective, but it is with the noun. So that can be a little confusing. Just focus on where the article is. If it's with the adjective, it's going to be in the attributive or substantival. If it's without the adjective, if it's not with the adjective, it's probably going to be in a predicate position if there is an article associated with the noun. Agathos ha anthropos is the man is good. That's not the same as the good man, is it? The man is good. Well, I know that even though the word is isn't here. It's not present. It doesn't need to be because this is in a predicate position, an adjective without the article, with a noun with the article. And you see in all these cases, here the adjective has the article, here the adjective has the article, here the adjective has the article, but here it does not. That's a predicate but the noun does. That is a predicate position. Here we have the second position. Well, the second position is because the adjective comes second after the noun is modifying. But again, the article is with the noun and not with the adjective. So it is a predicate position. The man is good. There is no third position for a predicate. So that's how you would do it when there's an article present. When there's not an article, it can be a little more complex, but context is your guide. You're going to find the exact same thing. It's either going to function in the attributive position. It could say agathos anthropos without the article. That's say not there. Well, it's either going to be the good man or the man is good. You won't know except by context to be your guide. It's either going to be predicate or adjective if neither one has the article. And that's really all I can say about that. Hopefully that helps. Let's see if there's anything down here. Attributive gives a quality, an attribute to the word it's modifying. The adjective is articular. So we said the adjective is articular with the article. The noun may be or may not be articular. It may be articular or called anarthros, which means there is no article. And so we see here it's anarthros. The noun is anarthros. Here it is articular. Here the noun is anarthros. And predicate asserts something about the subject, and the verb to be is either stated or implied. In other words, it doesn't, here it's implied, it's not stated. The noun is articular. So here we see the noun is articular. It has an article, but the adjective is not. It's anarthros. Here, the noun is articular, and the adjective is anarthros without the article. Translation is the same. The man is good. For substantival, can case be nominative, accusative, genitive, or dative. It's determined by its function, like any other noun. If it's functioning as a subject, it's going to be nominative. If it's functioning as the accusative, it's going to be direct object. Functioning as direct object, it's going to be accusative. Just like any other noun. So there's nothing really different. The biggest thing is there's not going to be a noun for it to modify. So gender and number is determined by what it stands for. In other words, if it's intended to be a man, then that's singular masculine. If it's intended to be men, then that's singular plural in this. So that's how it would be. It's number and gender. Same if it's intended to be feminine, woman, then it would be a feminine. Context determines its function. So let me clear this. And I don't need that, don't need that. Okay, vocabulary. Agathos, this is the lexical form. Agathos, hey, han. This is an adjective, and so you see you have the nominative, the feminine, excuse me, the masculine, the feminine, and the neuter. Agathos, agathe, agathon, we've already seen that and used it. And that means, of course, good. Agapetos, agapete, agapeton, and that is, it means loved, beloved. Is it loved or beloved? Beloved, that's what I thought. Okay, beloved. And so masculine would be the Omicron sigma, feminine, agapete. For a feminine, it's a word modifying neuter would be agapeton type of thing. Ionios versus on. Now this is a 2-2. In other words, there's not a feminine. There is a masculine and a neuter. You don't see a feminine here. It doesn't have one. So Ionios or anion means ages or eternal. Alelon is means one another. It's an unusual word because it never occurs in the nominative or in the singular. Its lexical form is genitive plural. So you find the lexicon have the omega nu. That's his lexical form because it doesn't occur in the nominative and it doesn't occur in the singular. Alelon, meaning one another. Understand, one another is plural. And so that's why it's that way. Apokrythe is meaning he, she, or it answered. This is a common form of a verb. It occurs about 82 times in the New Testament. Anyway, so that's, I think, enough of that. Apokrythe, he, she, or it answered. Doulos, doulou, doulaha. Well, this is not an adjective. I know it's not an adjective because in my lexical form I have doulos with its genitive form doulou and its article masculine singular article ha. So this is a masculine. There's the stem. It is a second declension masculine. There's the singular with the sigma ending. There's the genitive, and it means it literally means slave, but during more recent times has a negative connotation to it. So most Bibles will either say bond servant. I think the ESV will use it as bond servant, but some more Bibles will say servant. The only problem with that is there's a different word for servant, and a slave isn't paid, but a servant is oftentimes. So I like bond servant better than I do just servant to be a little more clear. On means if or when. Emas, emi, emon. Emas, emi, emon means my or mine. It's emphatic because it has the epsilon in front of it. It means mine regardless of its case. Or if it's used substantively, it means mine. Antele, anteles, hey. Well, this is not an adjective because, again, I have the nominative singular antele. There's feminine stem ending with the genitive ace, anteles, and its article hey. So it means commandment. Kathos is as or even as. Kakos is bad or evil. This is a noun. I know it's a noun. It has a kakos, kakase, hey. Now this is a little bit different because even though it is a first declension feminine noun, it has an omicron stem, but it has a omicron sigma stem and eta sigma for the genitive, and then hey for the feminine article associated with it. Mu, it means my, and there's emu, which we had earlier, meaning my, or in the substantival, meaning mine. But here it's just my, mu. Here is nekros as an adjective, nekros, nekra, nekron, masculine, feminine, neuter, and that means dead. Pistos, piste, piston, here's the adjective of pistis. Pistis is the noun for faith or belief. In the adjective, it means faithful or believing, in masculine, feminine, or neuter. And paneros, paneron, panera, or paneron. So there's my masculine, there's my feminine, and there's my neuter, and it means evil or bad. Protos, prote, proton, an adjective with the masculine ending, with the feminine ending, and with the neuter ending, and it means first or earlier. And tritos, or trite, or triton, it just means third, and so it is. There's its this one, and like that other one, whether we talked about, which one was that had the here. The reason you see this here, we talked about this is not first declension. This is a third declension because it stem ending actually has the consonant, and it's a feminine word. When you get to third declension, masculine and feminine are combined, neuter separate. We'll do that in a couple of weeks. But here's kakos. It is has a consonant stem ending, so it is a feminine word, because I know that because I have the feminine genitive form and the article form. Not so, let's see, the same kind of thing with this other word. That's what I thought of. Yeah, here's the consonant stem ending. So it is a tritos. Well, it doesn't matter because this is an adjective, not a noun. So here's my masculine, here's my feminine, and here's my neuter, tritos, triton, trite, triton, and it means third. I think that's all. I'm sorry we didn't get to converse back and forth, but hopefully if you have any questions when you see this, then by all means send me a note, give me a call. For homework, please do Chapter 9, all the parsing in the BBG workbook, also the warm-up. But only do 1 through 3 of the number translations. And the reason is I want you to go ahead and also in the workbook do review number 2. Only do 1 through 10. That's not much. You just answer a few questions. It's not hard. And then the translation, which is on page, I think it was page 30. I can't remember now. I think it was page. The translation will take you time. You don't need to do 11, 12, or the parsing. Because you'll be doing a lot of that as you do the translation. You'll be actually translating 1 John chapter 4, 6 verses 1 through 6. And so that'll take you some time. And so I wanted to cut back a little bit, but we need to do that, and we'll go through that. Also, please read chapter 10. I don't know that we'll do much of an introduction to, we may do an introduction to chapter 10 next week, which is third declension. If we have a good foundation, it's not hard, and I think that we can build from there. Thank you for being with us, or hopefully you'll listen to the presentation. And if you have any questions, give me a call, and we'll do our best to answer them. Thank you.